Welcome to Hack Hunters. This is where we review some of the best and worst tattoo artists in your cities. Now in this episode, one of our viewers wrote in because he wanted to know our opinion about a tattoo artist before he got a portrait done by him, and happy to do it. So without further ado, let's introduce Sleepy Ozuna. You can find him working at Bigg Boyz Art Gallery Tattoo. Right there in Colorado Springs. Now, the weird thing is, on Google, it just says Art Gallery Tattoo. But and you can check him out on Instagram, Art Gallery Tattoos on Instagram. But you'll see here on his Sleepy Ozuna on Instagram, he says he's the owner of Bigg Boyz Art Gallery Tattoos. So I'm not really sure which one it is, but if you're looking on Google, it's just Art Gallery Tattoo. Kind of strange. But always do your own research, guys. Let me show you what I found. Bam. Now, I'm going to start off with some of the portrait type, realism type stuff that I found in his portfolio, and it's kind of rough. Let me zoom in here. Just random little white dots for the chin hairs there. The whiskers here, just kind of straight out, kind of gnarly looking whiskers, but the whole thing is just overly dark, overly saturated. Now, it is on a hand, so I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, hands are difficult, obviously. Maybe he was going a little darker on purpose because hands don't tend to hold ink quite as well, but really it just looks kind of like a jumbled mess. The small detail's just not there, and there's definitely no shading in the eyes. He just colored them in solid blue, but there's no like fade from dark blue to light blue or anything. So I don't necessarily know that realism is his forte. And when I saw this one, it's a little bit better, but let me zoom in here. The wolf has no nostrils in the nose, even though at this angle we would definitely see the nostrils. I zoom in again on the whiskers, and this is just strange that the white highlight he did just stops right there at the black and then continues over here. It's almost like the whiskers just got cut in half by his mouth shadow. That's just really weird. Also, the choice to do some dot shading right here. You see that? He did dot shading right there in the center of the nose, but nowhere else in the whole tattoo. And again, zoom in on the eyes, and I'm not seeing any shadows in the eyes or to make the eyeballs look 3D at all. So I really can't say realism is something I would go to this particular artist for. This one, like I said, if you zoom out, it looks okay, and he did a decent job. But then I come across this one. I know he's not going for realism here. But what I'm judging is the small texture, the small details, how much attention to detail. I zoom in on these wings, look, they're just blacked out. And I don't know if this was a cover-up or a redo or a touch-up or something, but he just did really simple blackout shading there. There's no real texture in any of the wings. You don't see any cracks or fine hairs or anything. In fact, you just see a few squiggles in the face there. So really kind of disappointing to see the lack of details put in such large pieces. Here's one where it's a little bit better. I thought the skull was good. You could see by how red it is that it's just beat to hell. That skin is on fire. But let me zoom in on the small details on the crown, and you can see he's having trouble. There's a lot of inconsistencies there. These circles don't match up. The line's definitely squiggly right there, you see. So I think when it comes to the small details, this is something that he as an artist kind of avoids. Maybe because he's not that great of an artist on paper, or maybe he's just not confident enough in his tattoo work. Here's another example of it, this massive Spartan helmet. And I'm not sure, this must have been a cover-up, because look at how it just filled in solid black. There was no better idea for how to fill that in than just solid black. I don't know. It's kind of sketchy when you're looking at people's tattoos going like, oh, I wonder if this one's a cover-up. And then they all kind of look like cover-ups. This skull here, really kind of a jumbled mess. That is a nightmare. Just squiggles of gray shading all around it, and it just kind of has a real kind of out-of-focus, blurry look to it. And like I said, this helmet doesn't have any real like glare effects or light source to it. Again, he just put some gray streaking in there, gray shadow effects, but there's no real like sense of 3D appeal or a glare off the helmet or anything like this. So I saw it a lot throughout his whole portfolio. Here's another flag. You can say it says "We the People" down here. This flag, instead of making it look like it's actually bent or wavy or wrinkly, it looks like there's just random shadows placed in there again. Really disappointed to see that kind of stuff, especially from a veteran artist, especially from an owner. You see these dice are definitely out of perspective, really out of perspective. He's struggling with his line work in there. And the thing that pops out to me on this one is, look at this spade, how the black fill-in is nowhere near as dark as the outline here. And this is something I see a lot. Artists struggle to get their black saturated. But like, if you're doing it this long in the industry, you should learn how much tolerance the skin has in different areas, like this forearm here. It's an easier place to be saturating black, and so I shouldn't see such a differentiation between the dark black fill-in and the line work like that. That's kind of a red flag that you guys can look out for when you're looking for artists. Now, a lot of his work was just simple little kind of clip art stuff, and I was surprised to see how many errors I saw in such simplistic designs. Let me zoom in on this compass. You see there, he's doubling, tripling over it to fix that line. You see the wiggle right there, unintentional wiggle. And then these trees are just straight out of a clip art coloring book, something just super simplified this stream. I think this was meant to be a watercolor tattoo also, and that is just very, very disappointing. I really hate it. I see a lot when artists that are not watercolor artists, or they don't do that style of watercolor, they think it's as simple as just putting some blotches in there, some blotchy color, and it'll it'll look good, right? No, this just looks messy and incomplete. Here's another one. You can see he struggled with the small outline. Again, struggled with the fill-in. You can see how it just does not come up to the line and how light that black is again. And then this one, it's a fox with some sort of scoliosis or something. Let me give it a better view. It's supposed to be this nature scene going on, but man, this is just busted up. Again, I'm sitting here looking at this one going, is this a cover-up? Why are these trees so silly looking? Why are they just so stringy and cheap looking? And it's big enough. This is on the back of someone's leg. You could have got in there and detailed those trees with a finer liner, but he just chose not to. And I think it just goes to show a lot of cutting corners, a lot of simple designs like this one. Look at the same leaves. All those leaves are exactly the same, and they just use one tone of gray to shade this. That's very, very disappointing. Here's a black cock with red tips, and look at the line work there. You can see how it fades out, not at the proper depth. The blending here, the blending. I hate to see this, where black to red is not a difficult fade. It's a really simple one. It looks a little bit better here on the tail, but then right here, why did this not blend a lot smoother? There's just this clean line where black should fade to red, but it just goes from black to red. And again, you got the errors in the line work here. So when I'm seeing such major errors in such small work, very disappointing. It's big red flags going off that I would warn clients about. This was one of the better pieces I've seen in his more recent portfolio. Again, I zoom in though, and I can still see a lot of line errors, a lot of doubling over lines to try to fix them, clean them up. But all around, this was not a bad tattoo. It looks relatively clean. The shading looks clean. He didn't overwork the skin too bad. So that was probably some of the better work that I saw. But overall, I saw way too much cutting corners, really simple designs, not enough energy or effort put into designing these tattoos and really creating great detail for the client. So, Sleepy, you're ending up on our hack list, sorry to say. Guys, that's it for this episode, but go check out part number 1 if you haven't seen it. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next city. Bye-bye.